There was on the Association of Bad Friends today, somebody posted a video, and it was all the Christian denominations explained in one sentence. And it went down through, and it was really interesting, and it got to Quakers, and it was like 10 seconds of silence. There was no sentence. And then it went on to the next group. I thought that was pretty clever, whoever had put that together. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start. And good way, since, as I said, we're gathering from different locations and not everybody knows everyone. We'll just go around and do quick introductions. If you'd say your name and the name of your meeting and where that meeting's located, because we are kind of scattered around the US here. And I will call on you because I'll try and keep us in order on what's on my screen, if that's okay. So I'm Brent Bill. I attend West Newton Friends meeting, which is in Southwest Indianapolis. Nancy's throat's soft tonight, so she said she's Nancy, also from West Newton. Chip?
I'm Chip Pearson. I live on the southwest side of Indianapolis in a little area called Mars Hill, and I attend the West Newton Friends meeting.
Mac? Oh, sorry. You
That's
want
okay.
me? Okay.
Fine. My name is Mac Lemon. I'm from the Friends meeting of New Orleans. I grew up here. I graduated from ESR. I'm a hospital chaplain. We're part of South Central yearly meeting, part of FGC.
Lynn?
I'm Lynn Mills. I am a member of West Newton Friends meeting.
Steve?
I'm Steve Mills, also a member of West Newton Friends meeting, and we live in Canby, Indiana.
Jonathan?
I'm Jonathan Hubbard. I live in London, Kentucky. I'm a member of West Newton Friends. Obviously, I attend via Zoom.
Sue?
I'm Sue Egan, West Newton Friends meeting. I live in Plainfield, Indiana.
Sarah Beth?
I'm Sarah Beth Marcenko, and I'm a member at Bloomingdale Friends meeting, and that is on the west central side of Indiana, and it's a member of Western Yearly Meeting.
Marty?
I'm Marty Grundy. Now I'm a member of Wellesley Friends meeting in Massachusetts. Most of you are from hither, I'm from yon. I was a member of Cleveland meeting for a good many years, and now it's a New England yearly meeting.
I will say that Marty and I used to work together on the New Meetings project for Friends General Conference when that was going on. And she's a wonderful and deep writer. So if you have a chance to check out any of her writings, I'd encourage you to do so.
Thank you.
Matt's iPhone. Norma?
Yes, I'm Norma Gaston, member of West Newton Friends meeting. I live kind of southwest of West Newton, Indiana, and south of Canby, and that's in southern part of the Indianapolis area.
Scott?
I'm Scott Walton of Fairfield Friends meeting, and I live in Plainfield, and the meeting is barely in Plainfield.
Catherine?
I'm Catherine Murray. I worship with Noblesville Friends, live in Indianapolis, and Noblesville is just a little north of Indianapolis.
John?
Yes, I'm John Hesselman. I'm from Mooresville Friends, which is in Mooresville, Indiana, which is a little southwest of Indianapolis, and part of Western Yearly Meeting.
Dave?
Dave Mills. Norma has been a member of West Newton Friends Meeting about 6 years longer than I have, I think. Norma, which would make her a member for about 86 years.
That's true. Yeah, exactly.
I live in Stuart, Florida, and Zoom in.
Dale? No, we're not hearing you. Says you're on mute.
Doral. I worship on Zoom with West Newton, but I also worship with Grinnell Friends, Iowa Yearly Meeting.
Okay. Dan Bean?
My apologies for not having my picture up there, but Sylvia's just come in. I think she's going to solve that. I attend the Marshalltown Friends meeting in Marshalltown, Iowa, which is central Iowa. And we normally try to attend the West Newton meeting by Zoom before we run into Marshalltown.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Let's spend a couple moments in some centering worship, and then we'll get started. Well, again, welcome, friends, to this, and it's what I call a spiritual conversation. It grew out of the Quaker Lecture that I was invited to present to Western Yearly Meeting this past summer. It does feel like I spent the summer talking about the Quaker testimonies and their place in our lives, the Society of Friends, both at Friends General Conference, then at Canadian Yearly Meeting, and then at Western Yearly Meeting. And in the lecture, which was titled Living Witnesses, How Do Quakers Speak to Today? One of the sections in the lecture was about being for, and as I was talking to my friend Carrie Newcomer today online, she posted a song and also talked about how hard it is at times for a gentle Midwesterner to be prophetic without getting angry and strident. And I responded that I think that that's a dilemma that a number of us have. It's very easy to get strident and say what we're against, and to because there are many things that we are rightly against, but sometimes we get so strident that we are unable to be heard by those we most want to hear us. We don't know how to phrase things in what we're for. I said in the lecture, I found that reframing my positions or beliefs in a way that I'm able to say what I'm for is an exercise in spiritual development. For one, it challenges my thinking and helps me put it in the light of my interior life. This reframing also humbles me, which is something I often need. And I've been challenged this by the quote that I opened this section with, and it's by the priest, the martyred priest, Oscar Romero. He says, I don't want to be an anti against anybody. I simply want to be the builder of a great affirmation. The affirmation of God who loves us and wants to save us. And so the way this will go is we're just going to let folks speak as led, and the ground rules are very simple. We invite you to only speak once until everybody's had a chance to speak. But also, this is not a time for refutation or argument. It's a time for listening and to hearing what others say about what are Quakers for today in their thinking. And if you have a question, you're invited. You can say, well, tell me more about that, or ask clarifying questions, but we're not going to argue with one another. It's a place of theological hospitality this evening. So I will be quiet and invite folks to speak as they're led on what do you think Quakers are for today? What can we say we are for? How do we put our witness in positive terms?
Well, not one that can sit quiet too long. As a Quaker, I am for peace. I am for helping the earth and the environment, and I'm for musicals.
I think one thing that's very distinctive about Friends is that we're for the immediacy and accessibility of God. That, you know, Christ has come to teach each one of us himself. So that idea that our life, we can allow our lives to be rightly ordered, and there is a peace, and there are ways that we learn to discern priorities and seek goodness, and it's a job from the inside out. So however that might be stated in language that different populations could understand in the world, that idea, the immediacy and accessibility and presence of God so close for each of us, I think is something we're for.
I'm recalling George Fox a bit in this paraphrase this statement that there's that of God in everyone. So I guess I would probably say tolerance.
I trust that our answer can be aspirational. So I would say that we are the people whose lives witness to God's love and for the living presence and guidance of the God who created us humans and said, it is good. So every day in every relationship, we have to recognize the good in everyone, even though, as Fox often said, it may be chained down and buried. But friends are the ones who answer with love. As I say, it's aspirational.
I would say something very similar to what Marty said, I think, and that is that the foundation stone of my faith anyway is and the belief that the being that created the world and all of us loves us with a love that's deeper than our human imaginations can even grapple with, but we can't experience it. And it is out of our Quakers' experience of the deep love of God that the testimonies arise.
I think we are for equality. Each of us is able to experience the deep love of God, as Lynn says. We each have that of God within us. And then I think from there it flows. We've had the equality of women, of children for school, of everyone, for of education, but just, I don't know, equality is the word that comes to. We're for equality.
It involves the immediacy of the recognition of the love of God and a striving toward a just peace.
Quakers, I believe we are for wholesome living, using our gifts of intelligence and creativity and resourcefulness and even in our entertainment, to develop our minds and our spirits, and to share those that share our wholesomeness with others who need the nurture and the modeling and the encouragement that wholesome lives bring to us.
I believe Quakers are for listening to that quiet voice of God and then acting on the message that we receive.
I think Quakers are for helping. If we see a need, we step right up and offer to help, and in a lot of different ways. And working at a food pantry or just being kind to everybody that we meet, that is helping in a personal way.
Yes, one of mine goes along with sort of something that Dan Bean said. 40 plus years ago, when I was trying to decide whether to go to Earlham School of Religion or not, they had the motto, "We hold that God's will can be known and obeyed." And growing up an evangelical friend that spoke to me in an important way. I think that's still true. But I think that in phrasing it of what we're for is that we're invited into the divine encounter, into that which is eternal, and to work, as our Jewish friends say, with God in the redemption of this world. And I think that's what speaks to my condition at this time, this idea that we work with God. We don't just listen, but then we're called to service and action. And that may look different for each of us, but we are for inviting others into that same kind of a divine encounter that changes them and us in the world. Well, as I said last week, there is no rule that everybody has to share something if they don't feel led to, but I want to make sure everybody knows that they're welcome to and has a chance. And so we'll wait another few moments, and then I might reframe another question for us to consider as a group, but I would certainly want to leave space for those who haven't spoken yet.
Is it okay to speak twice? I had a second thought.
Oh, I guess, Catherine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I always break the rules, don't I? The idea of last week, a couple of you mentioned radical inclusion, and that phrase really resonated with me all week. I thought about it over and over again. And that idea of what we're for, the idea of being inclusion, that kind of flows, I mean, it flows for me out of that idea of ministry of all believers, which, the Spirit speaks through any one of us at any time, and every person has a gift and a part to play and can contribute to the goodness. And I think as we think about what we're for, that's something I'd love for especially young adults to know about Quakers, that we believe that they have a part to play, that they have good things to offer, and that this isn't a hierarchical tradition, where they have to be a church member for 40 years before they can contribute something worthwhile, that this is a living organism that relies on the love and creativity of all at any moment, unconditionally.
I was just thinking about what a gift children are in our lives and how wise they are many times. It just gives me pause to think, what did you say? Or what did you do? It's a God-given gift, being kind and trying to understand children at different ages. And believe me, I did a lot. And try to be caring, but having to be stern in ways, and trying to explain things, and the kids not to scold or make fun of or any kind like that. When I hear parents say things to their children any age in a way to demean what their thoughts were, and I think they need to have that freedom to say what they think, not argue, try to guide, and let they guide me. I think it just seems to see the young people now, and it's probably been said for years, that they need help, they need understanding, and you see it so much in the world now that I think I think we need to be guiding their thoughts. And if they say they don't believe that or whatever, let's give them time. And they may correct me. There's always time to learn. From young people, from children, actually sometimes from a baby. And it just puts everything in like, oh, is this the way it is? I mean, ages and youth and just goodness from every part of our bodies. And everybody in the world could use it in their own way. They try to raise their children. They have their beliefs. I just want to exist and try not to be harmful.
Well, early on, I posited my belief that it's important to be for and talked about Romero's I want to be an affirmation, the affirmation of God. And I wonder, and for the remaining time we have, if do we feel it's important for Quakers to have a positive message to offer the world, stating what we're for? Or should we be more like, in some ways, the early friends who were not afraid to walk into a place and go, woe unto thee, bloody city of Litchfield, or wherever they were going, and condemn their behavior? I will argue in a Quakerly way that it seems that in this polarized world right now, there are so many voices of against. It seems to me that it's important that we be able to say what we're for, that seems a bit more invitational to me. But I wonder how others feel. So it's all open now. Any discussion for the rest of our time together, and speak as you feel led.
I like the phrase invitation. I think of Quakerism as like a continual invitation into God's presence, into God's leading, that we offer that invitation to everyone that we come in contact with, or that's our kind of highest ideal. I was sitting here through the first, period of reflection and just saying to myself that it's hard for me to say what I'm for without talking about what I do about it. And I don't really do anything about it because I have 3 children and a busy life, and So I'm going to share someone else's story, even though I haven't really gotten permission to. But a friend of mine from a friend of mine has been attending a UCC, United Church of Christ church occasionally, as well as her home meeting. And that church is going through a centennial and talking about their history and doing all this research. And they want to make a statement. They've been discussing a statement regarding their relation to like indigenous people in their area. And in the conversation about that statement, the Quaker who was visiting the UCC church said, well, maybe we should start with an apology. And everybody got really mad at her for saying that. And as she was leaving, she said, and y'all should say something about the role slavery played in your history as well. You know, and they didn't like that either. So I don't know if she was necessarily being confrontational or invitational, or maybe it was an invitational message presented in a kind of confrontational way. But it, you know, living in New Orleans where most people are Catholic, I have thought to myself, well, I'm, you know, one of very few friends here. I should meet with the archdiocese and talk to them about our theology and like get on the same page together and confront them in some kind of way. And so it was uplifting to hear my friend tell this story of how she had been doing that with the church. And I felt that that was directly connected, you know, straight back to the roots of Quakerism, and feel that that is something we should be doing. And just last things last is that, you know, friends are called into spiritual warfare, which as like a young man, that was always like a really exciting image for me, even though I don't feel like I understood what it meant until very recently, which are that, you know, we do not fight with carnal weapons, but like the force of the spirit, which is love and truth. And that is what we're called to in this time. Sorry to go on and on. Thank you.
Seems to me that the basic message of Friends has always, or is basically invitational. We're being invited to live into that which Jesus was talking about all the time, which was the kingdom. You know, we can find some different words. We can call it kingdom if we want, or whatever. He chose a word that had political meaning, and I think he probably chose it on purpose. Anyway, that's beside the point. We're invited to live into this that is within us, it's among us, it's near at hand. And what is it? It's a whole different way of relating with each other, based on love, unconditional love with expectations. And everywhere it bumps up against the dominant culture, which doesn't like this at all, we are confronting them. Because just by our doing things in a way of love and honesty, truthfulness, integrity, the world's not used to this. And it's a message that I think people are hungry for. And I think that we need to demonstrate it and then use words if necessary.
Well, as a Quaker, and I also studied Buddhism, I thought the biggest thing about Quakers and Buddhists was they believed in peace. Now, in the 60s, I protested against war in Vietnam. And Brent said, it's better to protest for peace than to protest against something. So that kind of changed my way of thinking. And now I'm more into the peaceful mode. And it's good to even locally, like if you can get between people and keep them from fighting, that's what I do as a Quaker for peace.
Well, friends, are there any other thoughts to share before we close our time together?
This was very thoughtful, thought-provoking as well.
I have one thought that's trying to clear itself in my mind enough to say this. So I don't know if this will make sense, but what was arising for me was the idea that your question about, do we speak truth against something and perhaps add to the discord in the world, or do we align with a good value that we are for and demonstrate that? And the question that was coming up is there a difference depending on whether we're person to person or person to system? Like, you know, the need for speaking truth and speaking boldly and standing for, and like bringing up past injustices and try to address the things that have gone unaddressed in the name of justice. So, you know, in a systemic way, is important for healing and integrity and the rightening of a just system, or at least moving toward a just system. But also person to person, what comes to me is I'm a hospice chaplain by day. And, you know, I visit everybody with just about every kind of belief and no belief you could imagine. And, you know, I know from their views and what's on the television and what's going on around us, it's obvious to me that when our you know, views and values might be a little different, and none of that matters, because I'm there, you know, to love them and care about their heart and the quality of their day and who they turn to when they're scared, and to provide some comfort if I can. And, you know, that's a moment of, that's just love. That's just love. So, you know, person to person, living out our values as friends, you know, that's definitely a 4 in terms of, again, you know, changing a system that's been built on inequality and injustice. I mean, that might require a different response. So I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if any of that made sense, but that's the question that's arising for me.
I realize nobody heard me a moment ago because I was muted when I spoke. A lot of people would think that that's when I'm at my best, when I'm muted. But I wondered if there was be a good reason to have a couple of more meetings of this nature to think through what we've talked about a little bit, and what we might add to it, because I'm not sure that I feel like we've come up with the things that would jar the 12, 15, 18-year-old young people to come into the Quaker family. And right now, as I look around this group, I don't see very many of those people to carry it forward.
Well, I was going to ask, because I've enjoyed the 2 sessions we've had, if friends might want to think about doing one of these a month for a while, with a query and a little opening and just a chance to share and have a conversation like we've had these past 2 weeks, if there'd be any interest in doing something like that.
I could see it.
I would like that.
I would too.
We would like that.
We would like that.
I would like that too.
Yes, we would too.
I would like that.
Well, then I will, if it's agreeable, I'll try and set up a time in middle of, sometime in October on a Wednesday night again to set up another conversation and give us a starting thought and announced ahead of time what it is with some queries. I was wondering about the next time, one of the things that was also from the Quaker lecture was the idea of that's been often well formulated by John Woolman's. The first motion was love, and the idea that that's come up last week and this week. And so what does it mean to live in radical inclusive love in this world today and remain both ministerial or pastoral and prophetic? How's that sound for a topic?
Good one.
Something to wrestle with?
Yeah.
Works for me.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'll try and set something up then. Well, I will set something up then. I won't just cry, you know.
If they have
So
any ideas.
we have heard, as Dan says, we don't want to just hear, we want to do. So I've heard and I will do. So thank you all for joining from near and afar.
Good to see everybody.
And invite anybody else you know who you think would be interested in this to attend. I put it on a couple sites, the Quaker Theology site and other places. So everybody's welcome.
I get
So,
it.
Thank you.
Bye. Good to see everyone.
Thank you.
okay.
Everyone.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye.
Brett. Good to see everybody.
Bye.